When combat between humans and aliens once again breaks out on planet Earth, the son of a war hero, a group of young cadets and giant robots are humanity's only hope. Today we're going to recap the story of the 2018 movie, Pacific Rim: Uprising. 10 years have passed since the final battle between humans and a gigantic alien race known as the Kaijus, who entered Earth thanks to a dimensional rift in the Pacific Ocean. Sent by the so-called precursors, the monsters almost destroyed planet Earth, but humanity managed to close the portal and emerge victorious thanks to the creation of the Jaegers, colossal robots with high technology and weaponry. Since then, the world continues to be rebuilt, but in the meantime, some people are taking advantage of the situation. One of them is Jake, son of the war hero, Stacker Pentecost. Jake throws parties in mansions destroyed by war, sells stolen items in exchange for food and, above all, illegally trades parts from decommissioned Jaegers. His newest business is to sell a capacitor in a government junkyard, but when he arrives at the location shown on his tracker, someone has taken the goods before. His clients are not happy about this and a chase ensues. Jake manages to escape, but ends up in a dead end. Fortunately, before his pursuers could fill him full of bullets, he activated a lever that opened floodgates in the ground, knocking down and trapping the people there. After leaving, Jake sees a hooded man running away who has stolen his merchandise. He chases him and ends up in a garage where he finds a Jaeger built from old parts. At that moment, the hooded man attacks Jake, but he manages to take him down and discovers that the thief is a rebellious teenager called Amara. The girl stole the capacitor to finish the robot she created herself and named Scrapper. Before they can solve the problem between them, military convoys that have followed them from the junkyard appear on the scene to capture Jake and Amara. Reluctantly, the two team up to escape using the girl's robot. Leaving the garage, the pair are stopped by a much bigger Jaeger, November Ajax, who tells them to give themselves up without resistance. The girl responds by firing gas bombs to camouflage herself and then activates a function that makes her robot spin like a ball at high speed. Thanks to this, they manage to hide in the ruins of a building. The maneuver, though clever, wasn't enough to help them escape Ajax's clutches. So Jake takes one of Scrapper's energy cells and has Amara lead them to the robot's head. With this maneuver, they drop the energy cell into Ajax's head, temporarily disabling his system. Once again, the idea only works temporarily and the giant robot pulls itself together and gives the fugitives one last warning to surrender. They don't obey and Ajax attacks using power cables, disabling the Scrapper system and thus ending the chase. In a cell, while they discuss what happened, Jake asks why the girl built a Jaeger by herself, and she says she's afraid the Kaijus will return and she won't be able to defend herself. The conversation ends when he is taken by police officers to a room where a hologram is activated showing Mako, his adopted sister. She tells him that if Jake doesn't want to stay in prison, he'll have to enlist as an instructor in the Jaeger pilot program and take the girl along as a cadet. Although reluctant, he accepts. Arriving at the base, the pair meet Nate, a ranger who used to be Jake's partner piloting the Jaeger Gypsy Avenger, but who doesn't seem happy about his return. Things get even more tense when Jules appears, an officer who arouses the interest of the friends. After that, in one of the barracks, young cadets are training until Nate appears and introduces Jake Pentecost and Amara, the new cadet who will be staying with them to start her training. The girl's arrival displeases one of the group, Victoria, who doesn't understand how a Scrapper can become a ranger. Fortunately, Amara is welcomed by the rest of the group. A fight ensues between a Jaeger and a Kaiju, but the robot is easily defeated. However, it was all simulated training to test Amara's abilities, but the girl fails the test and is reprimanded by her superior. In the base cafeteria, Jake and Nate come to an agreement about the training of the young cadets and talk about a new drone project that will make Jaeger technology obsolete. The next day, a team of scientists led by Li Wenxiao arrives at the base to present the drone technology. Joining them is Mako and Dr. Newt, who helped her and Jake's father in the previous war. Soon after, Dr. Herman, Newt's old partner, appears and takes him to his laboratory on the base to learn about the project he is working on. His experiment consists of using Kaiju blood as fuel to get Jaegers to strategic combat points more quickly using rocket boosters. However, the idea is rejected by his old friend, even though Herman tells him that since the previous war, he keeps having nightmares about connecting his mind to the brain of a Kaiju. After that, everyone goes to the base room where Li Wenxiao gives a presentation on drones. She says that it will no longer be necessary to train pilots and take them into combat, but to use remote-controlled drones. The idea is not well received among the pilots, except for Jake, who sees it as an opportunity to leave the base and return to his old life. However, Mako tells him that she's worried about the safety of these drones and that's why she hasn't given her vote of approval yet. Even so, Jake promises to support her in whatever she decides and that he will pilot the Gypsy Avenger to ensure the council's safety during the vote. The next day, a rebel group in favor of the Kaijus causes trouble near the council building in Sydney, Australia. Shortly afterwards, the Gypsy Avenger, controlled by Jake and Nate, arrives on the scene to keep the situation under control. However, another unknown Jaeger emerges from the sea next to the Opera House and starts wreaking havoc wherever it goes. Even though the Rangers order the giant robot to stop, it responds by firing missiles at the council building. The explosion causes the building's landing platform to collapse, but the Gypsy Avenger manages to catch it before it falls on pedestrians, including the leader of the drone project, Li Wen. At this point, the security team activates cannons to fire at the out-of-control Jaeger, but he again strikes back with missiles. Soon after, Mako is in a helicopter and tries to communicate with Jake, but the evil robot activates a feature that blocks all communications. To make matters worse, he tries to shoot at Mako's helicopter, but the Gypsy Avenger uses all his strength to throw the landing platform at him, causing him to miss. A direct confrontation between the robots ensues, but the villain gains the upper hand with a series of punches and throws. To balance the fight, the pair of Rangers activate a robotic sword in one of Gypsy's arms, but the enemy activates two at once and again, gains the upper hand and causes widespread destruction in the city. This ends up threatening pedestrians who desperately run for their lives, but Jaeger uses a rocket punch to disorient the villain. Unfortunately, he soon pulls himself together and fires more missiles, one of which hits Mako's helicopter, which begins to fall. Desperate, Jake tries to rescue her, but first, he and his partner activate a gravity-splitting cannon, which fires rays that attract cars and rocks, forming a kind of whip that hits the Jaeger in the head. After that, Gypsy runs and jumps to catch Mako's helicopter, but they are too late and she falls, dying in the explosion. Just then, 3 more Jaegers arrive to help in the battle, which makes the enemy robot leave. Back at the military base, Jake sees a hologram in memory of his sister and leaves a family photo of a happy moment in the past. Afterwards, he meets Amara again, who is sorry for his loss. Grateful, Jake then decides to help her concentrate so that she can control the Jaegers. The two then connect their minds in the simulator and begin to access each other's memories. At this point, it is revealed how the girl lost her family in a kaiju attack, which made her build Scrapper. After this tragic memory, the girl is comforted by Jake, but he is soon summoned to a meeting. Once there, a coded message was sent by Mako before she perished. Dr. Herman manages to decipher it, revealing an unknown kaiju symbol that they will investigate. In Xiao's industry, Dr. Newt arrives and discovers that the drone project has been approved by the council thanks to the attack by the evil Jaeger. However, the project has to be activated within 48 hours and it's Newt's responsibility to get it done. Afterwards, the doctor returns home to relax with his wife. However, his wife is actually the brain of a kaiju called Alice. Back at the base, Amara watches the news about the conflict with the enemy robot, which they have named Obsidian Fury. In the midst of conversations and provocations with her colleagues, Victoria ends up irritating Amara and the two get into a fight, with the new cadet getting the better of her. At that moment, Nate appears and reprimands the youngsters, as well as giving them a lesson from Mako, that once they become Ranger pilots, they must unite as a family. Afterwards, the Rangers are summoned to another meeting, where Dr. Herman reveals that the kaiju symbol in Mako's message was actually the location of an old Jaeger's core manufacturing base in Siberia. Jake then asks Nate for permission to go there using the Gypsy Avenger, but when they arrive, everything is deserted. However, they are hit by a missile, followed by others that destroy the factory. The missiles were fired by the Obsidian Fury, and when they saw the Jaeger responsible for Mako's elimination standing in front of them, the pair set out to confront him, attacking his legs and throwing themselves over a cliff with him. The two robots stand up and the villain fires a beam of energy from his core at Gypsy, who, in order to escape, punches the ground, breaking the ice and sinking into the water. However, missiles come out of the hole and knock Fury into the sea, but Gypsy emerges and grabs his enemy, taking him back to the battlefield. Again, the two Jaegers activate their swords, but the pilots use an ancient maneuver to dodge the enemy attack and hit him in the body. They then proceed to attack the enemy's core, but the robot manages to break the sword and crosses its two blades to destroy Gypsy's helmet. Fortunately, the two pilots manage to counterattack with a headbutt to Fury, then take the broken blade and drive it into their enemy's helmet, and finally, they manage to destroy his core with one punch, sending him crashing to the ground defeated. Jake then orders the pilots to leave immediately, but when no one answers, he pulls off his helmet and discovers that inside the robot, there were no pilots, but a kaiju brain. Back at the base, Dr. Herman analyzes the brain and discovers that, although it is of alien origin, it was not made on their planet or by the precursors, but on Earth using organic matter from the kaiju eliminated in the war, all made by human hands. Outside the base, the metal body of the Obsidian Fury is being analyzed, and Amara convinces her friends to go and check out what's inside the robot, even without permission. However, when they touch his organic matter, an acidic substance falls on Cadet Janae's arm and he has to be taken to the doctor immediately. Luckily, the kaiju substance only gave the young man a few scratches, but Amara was expelled from the pilot program for her infraction. Compassionate for the girl, Jake explains to her why he too was expelled from the program when he disobeyed an order that almost lost him Nate's friendship and even his father's admiration. Nevertheless, he tells the girl to stand firm and not let her life be defined by what others think. Amara is grateful for the advice and reveals to Jake that she has found technology from Shao Industries inside Obsidian. This information could indicate that Li Wen Shao's company was responsible for the attack, and Jake then asks Dr. Herman to look for Newt and find out if there really is a connection between these events. Amara then prepares to leave, which leaves her friends, and even Victoria, disappointed. However, at this point the drone program is finally activated, but something goes very wrong and they start attacking the Jaeger base. At this point, Dr. Herman has managed to infiltrate Shao Industries and finds Newt. He tells him that his boss manipulated him into creating the drones in order to sell a solution to a problem that she herself created using Kaiju technology. However, the two are stopped by Li Wen's security guards. Meanwhile, the base continues to be attacked by drones and Amara gathers her friends to protect themselves in the barracks. In the midst of the confusion, one of the drones knocks over a Jaeger that is about to fall on Nate, but Jules saves him and the two almost have a sentimental moment, but Jake appears, showing how inconvenient it all was in that situation. Back in Industria Shao, Newt and Herman manage to stop the guards and go to the laboratory to deactivate the drones. However, on the computer screen, a warning appears of portals being opened around the world, and Newt reveals that since the end of the previous war, he has been planning to destroy the planet once and for all. According to him, the plan is to use the drones to open dimensional rifts and thus unleash the kaijus once again on our world. Herman asks why he is doing this and discovers that his former friend has been dominated by the Forerunners ever since. Just then, Li Wen, the head of the company, appears with a gun pointed at Newt, but Herman stops her. Even so, she orders her security guards to capture the man and eliminate him if necessary. At the base, Jake, Nate and the cadets are cornered by the drones, but Li Wen and Herman manage to hack into their programming and disable them all. In fact, thanks to this, the drones that were opening a portal are deactivated, and the kaiju that was about to leave is eliminated when the door closes, cutting it in half. The other portals are closed, but even so, 3 kaijus have managed to escape, 2 level 4 and 1 level 5, in South Korea, Russia and China, and all 3 seem to be heading in the same direction. At the base, Jake helps the survivors and is informed of the arrival of the kaijus by Dr. Herman, and to stop them, an army of Jaegers will be needed. However, all of the base has been destroyed, so Jake reintegrates Amara into the program and asks for her help to build robots with the remaining parts. Then several aircraft from Shao Industries land at the base, bringing their leader and Dr. Herman. Everyone gathers to discuss the kaiju's objective, and, using data from the previous war, they discover that the monsters are heading for Mount Fuji, a volcano located in Japan. Their goal is to reactivate the volcano made up of rare earth elements, which according to Dr. Herman, when they come into contact with kaiju blood, can create a destructive reaction. If this happens on Mount Fuji, the reaction will create a cascade effect that will release gases and toxic substances into the atmosphere, wiping out all life on Earth and leaving the planet free for the precursors to take over. Humanity's only hope is to rebuild the Jaegers, using Dr. Herman's high-powered thruster technology. Unfortunately, only 4 Jaegers are built in time and only Jake and Nate are left as pilots. So there is no alternative but to take the cadets into battle. Jake then gathers everyone together and gives a speech to motivate them in their most important mission, to save the world once again. So the pilots get into their Jaegers and activate the thrusters, which fortunately work, and they manage to travel to Tokyo, Japan, where the Kaijus are causing total destruction. With most of the population managing to take shelter underground, the 4 Jaegers split up to finish off the monsters. Gypsy and Bracer attack the larger Kaiju, but it has the ability to absorb the energy from the blow and counterattack. Jake then uses the gravity fission to knock the buildings towards the monster, but it's no use. Elsewhere, Saber Athena is attacked by a Kaiju and Bracer Phoenix comes to her aid, with Victoria using a machine gun on the robot's bust to fire at the monster. Guardian Bravo also appears to help, using an electric whip to bring down the Kaiju. The situation seems to be under control, but Newt appears on top of one of the buildings in Tokyo and summons parasitic robots from Lewin's laboratory. These robots dodge the Jaegers and head towards the monsters, causing the 3 of them to merge into a much more powerful and resistant Mega Kaiju. Jake then orders them to attack with everything they've got, but their weapons aren't enough to stop the monster. Guardian Bravo tries to attack him alone with his whip, but is thrown away, resulting in the destruction of the robot and the elimination of one of the cadet pilots. The 3 remaining Jaegers then unite for a new attack. At the base, Dr. Herman manages to identify 3 secondary brains around the Mega Kaiju's spine and tells the pilots to attack at those points. Jake and Nate activate the Obsidian Fury technology that was added to the Gypsy Avenger, resulting in 2 swords in their arms that they use to attack the monster, but are then thrown away. After that, Saber Athena manages to hit one of the Mega Kaiju's brains with her sword, but is pierced by the monster and thrown too. Bracer Phoenix comes in for the attack, but is also incapacitated. Luckily, Amara, Janae and Victoria manage to eject from the robot before it's too late. The Gypsy Avenger returns to fight the Mega Kaiju, but as well as the monster breaking one of his swords, he pierces the robot's helmet with one of his tentacles, leaving Nate seriously injured. Unable to count on his partner's help, Jake tries to lift Gypsy up by himself, but Amara shows up to help him. With the monster approaching Mount Fuji, the only alternative is to use one of the thrusters to take the Jaeger into the atmosphere and then release it towards the Mega Kaiju. The thruster, however, is far from them, but Lewin sends Amara's robot, Scrapper, to deliver it and weld it to the Gypsy Avenger's hand. The plan works and they manage to reach the atmosphere and use the robot arm's plasma cannon to correct the direction of the fall towards the Kaiju. With only one escape pod left, Amara undoes the connection and is caught by Jake, who tries to activate the robot's ejection, but the system doesn't work. Fortunately, Scrapper, who had clung to Avenger when the thruster was activated, manages to get through the hull and rescues them both, jumping away from Jaeger, who finally collides with the Kaiju and eliminates it once and for all. Everyone celebrates the victory, except Newt, who was going to activate a Plan B, until he is struck by Nate and taken into custody. Then, in an interrogation room, Newt is strapped into a chair. The man shouts that the Kaiju will keep coming back, until Jake appears to warn the precursors who are controlling his mind, that next time, it won't be them, but the humans who will go on the attack. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps.